Welcome to the Hollywood Scholar. I'm Jen Morgan. We're in the final countdown. Only 3 days left until Witcher Blood Origin comes out. For this show, I'm going to be doing a review the next day as well as a panel show the next day with a lot of great people you're familiar with here on YouTube in my sphere. And we're going to really tear this thing apart. This is Mortar Country style and really eviscerate this travesty that is coming. This 4-part special of complete and utter writing ineptitude on top of being completely lore inaccurate at every single possible opportunity. And as I predicted a few days ago, it appears that Netflix is trying to input as many travesties into the few days prior to Blood Origin as they possibly can to almost send viewers away. Because every day there's a new piece of news that comes out about this show that just makes you scratch your head and say, who is in charge of marketing? Who thought it was a good idea to make Hitler a good person just because she's a woman? Even if the news isn't related specifically to Witcher Blood Origin, the news about Witcher Season 3 is just as insane as the news about Blood Origin. Now, we do have a little bit news about Witcher Blood Origin, some comments about the Season 3 coming up with the showrunner Lauren Hissrich, and a few other things, and a potential spoiler for the end of Witcher Blood Origin. And God, this stuff is insane. But starting off, we have Lauren Hissrich, who says that Season 3 will be closer to the books and have a heroic send-off for Henry Cavill. Yay, we're gonna have it closer to the books, guys! Doesn't say it would be close to the books, just merely closer than Season 2. And as someone rightfully pointed out in the original Redanian Intelligence Twitter thread that I couldn't find that I saw initially, it's like the equivalent of drunk driving over and over and over again with like 1.0 blood alcohol content, and then suddenly getting pulled over by the cop with an 8 point something, a 0.8 something, and going, hey, I'm like a lot less drunk than I was last time I was drunk driving. It's still drunk driving. It's still a complete bastardization of the source material, even if you just get a little bit closer. It's so far off the reservation that a slight course correction closer to the books doesn't help things. And as I've said before, Time of Contempt cannot be accurately adapted without Blood of Elves being accurately adapted. Because Season 2 completely ignored the events of Blood Origin, Time of Contempt cannot make sense, especially with the Yennefer storyline that they completely threw out to get rid of her powers. And she doesn't train Ciri through the majority of Blood of Elves like she is supposed to. So both Ciri and Yennefer storylines are far behind what they should be. And Geralt's, they didn't adapt a single iota of Geralt's story from Blood of Elves in Season 2. There is no foundation on which to build Time of Contempt off of. There will be no logical massacre at Thanet. There will be no tower escape for Ciri that makes any sense. Everything that is important about Time of Contempt was eviscerated without the setups. The ship has sailed. Season 3 is too late in the game, even if she's right to course correct, because the foundation is rotted away. Now, we can get into her actual comments here, where she says, we're so interesting is that Season 3 to me is the closest thing that we've done to a one-to-one adaptation of the books. Yeah, the closest thing. Again, she doesn't say it's close. And from what we've seen of behind the scenes, from what we've heard in other interviews, it's still not going to be close at all. There's no way that you could have tapped Time of Contempt accurately after what they did to Blood of Elves. So saying it's closer is just fake begging marketing to try to get people back, because that's been the major criticism of this. That's not accurate whatsoever, on top of just being poorly written. So this just comes across as begging and virtue signaling to try to get people back to watch their show after Henry Cavill's departure a few months ago. It's not going to work. People see through this pathetic begging. Obviously, we can't do every page. Yes, obviously, they keep bringing it up. Like, there's been a lot of memes about Henry Cavill, like, freaking out if the color shade on the Space Marines isn't exactly right. He'd freak out. And it's not about one-to-one adaptation. It's not getting that color exactly right on a Space Marine. It's about getting it at all right. With the Lord of the Rings trilogy, of course, it wasn't 100% accurate, but it was incredibly accurate. In those movies, you had to point out what was different. You had to look for what was different from the source material. In The Witcher, you have to look for what is the same. There's a difference between 100%, like they keep acting like we're trying to ask for, and just being 0.01%, as Witcher Season 2 was. 0.01, any fan has a right to be upset about that horrific of an adaptation of Blood of Elves. Triss went to Kaer Morhen at the beginning. That's about as much as they adapted from Blood of Elves. That's it. So yeah, we have a right to be upset. We have a right to criticize. And just constantly saying, oh, we can't do 100% is not erasing our arguments. It is not making our arguments invalid. We're not asking for 100%. We're asking for more than 1%. Come on, give us something. I think a good adaptation should stick between 65 and 80% at least. I think that is a healthy place to stay. Obviously, you can't be 100%. No one is arguing with that. I'd shoot for higher than that. I think higher than 80% is good, but 65 to 80 is a reasonable range. And that's just personal. That's incredibly an arbitrary number, but it needs to be more than 0.01% as Witcher Season 2 was. But Time of Contempt gave us so many big action events, big plot points, defining character moments, huge reveals of a big bad. There's so much to do that we are able to stick really, really closely to the books. And yeah, it's not going to be close. No one who's been following this has any doubt that this is just fake begging, and this won't be true whatsoever. The massacre at Thanedd, I can't imagine how they're going to butcher that so soundly, because Yennefer kind of gets her ass handed to her right away, and then spends the next few books imprisoned. They're not going to do that to their big female warrior of Yennefer after everything they've done with her character. They're not willing to let her just be a prisoner for a extended period of time and get her ass handed to her. And it's just going to be incredibly pathetic. Carrying on, Geralt's big turn is about giving up neutrality and doing anything that he has to do to get Ciri. And to me, it's the most heroic send-off that we could have, even though it wasn't written to be that. Geralt has a new mission in mind when we send him back to him in Season 4. He's a slightly different Geralt than we expected. Now, by the way, that's an understatement. So yeah, he goes through a bit of a character arc. So that completely justifies the recast! It's completely pathetic. Honestly, yeah, he changes his character a little bit. And neutrality is only a minor portion of what Geralt goes through in Time of Contempt. And they're acting like it's his key defining trait. Yes, going to the lengths about Ciri, yes, that is his major thing. And the massacre at Thanedd is a big deal. And it's not about neutrality at Thanedd. It's just, he just sort of happens to be there with Ciri. It's not him making a statement on his neutrality. And I don't want them to see them butchering the incredible scene between Dijkstra and Geralt about talking about that. If they're hyper-focusing on something, you know it's going to be bad. And that's kind of all we have about her comments. We have a little bit more about Witcher Season 3. This episode is going to be called Sharonweed. It's a very, very, very small part of Blood of Elves, actually, not from Time of Contempt. And now they're making it a whole episode in the Time of Contempt season. That's going to be weird. And they're adding Yennefer into this location, apparently, which they shouldn't do. So they're already starting off strong with being more accurate to the books by completely not being accurate in the first announcement they have about Season 3. It's really, really quite amazing. And we have a little bit more about Blood Origin. Apparently, Jaskier's original scene was changed in The Witcher Blood Origin. As I reported on a while ago, he'd be seen in the prologue, singing and dancing in a pub, telling the true story, the book version of the Conjunction of the Spheres, and then he'd go outside and Minnie Driver's character would correct him and say, no, this is what really happened, and then she would narrate the events of Blood Origin. Apparently, they've changed it to where it's not him just singing in a pub, like that image. It's actually going to be him in this one. This is why I was a little confused when these images came out of the blood and guts, the violence. So they're changing it to be some sort of Scoia'tael massacre, I'm guessing, with him at the focus of it, and Minnie Driver's going to be added in to save him. And it's going to be weird. It's going to be a weird change, and they're really worried about people being upset that he's not going to sing, so they added in a end credit music where he's going to be singing during the credits just to make up for that. It's not going to be much better, but at least he's not telling the book version of the events and then getting corrected for telling those book accurate events. So it's a slight improvement in that sense, if nothing else. And I do have a bit of a spoiler, a bit of a leak about a potential end credit scene for Witcher Blood Origin. If you care about spoilers, step off now, come back later. But The Witcher Blood Origin apparently will have an end credit scene that is just horrifically bad. From the other videos that I've made, I'm not okay with the way that they're portraying Avlok as a teenage boy, pathetic, wafy, and just overall not intimidating or powerful in any way, shape, or form. And I had a few people say, hey, he's just really young. It's okay that he's a teenager. He'll grow up into the character, you know, which shouldn't be true because after the Conjunction of the Spheres, they go off into their land where Tir Nalia is built, and that universe goes at a much quicker rate than the continent does. So he wouldn't be that much older from the Conjunction of the Spheres to when we see him in the Witcher books and the Witcher video games. Yes, he'll be a couple hundred years older, but it's not as much as the continent would suggest. But it made it even worse. He's not even having those few centuries in the alternate universe, apparently. According to this leak, he's going to time travel, which no one besides the Elder Blood carriers should be able to do, and very poorly as well. Ciri time travels once in the books, and it leads to disaster. She's adrift in the multiverse, traveling through space and time at random, unable to control her destination. So there's no way there should be pinpoint time travel. So apparently, Avallac'h is going to time travel from Blood Origin to the events of Witcher Season 1, where we see him go to this scene from Season 1 where Ciri's pretending to be a boy playing with them in the streets of Sintra, and he's just going to appear there just staring at her. So they're going to skip centuries with this wafy little pathetic man. What the hell? What the hell? That is confirmation that the Lord Durin storyline will be included in Witcher Blood Origin, because Avallac'h is a major player in the life and death of Laura Durin, which is an essential aspect of Ciri's story. That only takes place about 110 years before Ciri's birth. So how can they be moving something 1,000 years into the past and then time traveling Avallac'h into the future? The timeline, the lineage, none of it will make any more sense. Avallac'h is just another character who's going to be completely destroyed for no reason whatsoever, and it's going to be horrific to watch. But we'll have to wait and see for 3 days more to see if this end credit scene is indeed what they're going to do. Again, this is a leak, this is a rumor, but we'll see how badly it all turns out in the end, because no matter what they do, whether or not they do this thing, I have no doubt that they will do something horrifically bad in all sense of the term, because that's all Netflix's Witcher writing staff seems capable of. But anyway, that's all I have for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Unknown.
Hey, yo, are you feeling what I'm doing up in here? Oh, I know you are. Do you miss all the good, compelling stories that we used to get back in Hollywood that they ain't putting down no more? Oh, I know you missing it. So check out my book series, Odyssey of a Phoenix, a mythological epic about philosophy, morality, and modern-day mental illness issues, baby. Book 1, Down in Flames. Book 2, Apocalypse Then. These are currently on sale. What are you waiting for? Get your hands on them. And we got Book 3, Kill the Dark, is coming down the pipeline. Just wait for all the good stuff that's dropping. You ain't gonna be disappointed, fam.